The film is based on a true story that took place in Los Angeles in 1928. One morning, Christine Collins wakes her 9-year-old son, Walter, and they start their day. Living just the two of them, Christine takes Walter to school before heading to her job as a telephone operator. Amidst a hectic workday, when she later collects Walter from school, he wonders why his dad left them shortly after his birth. She explains that he wasn't ready for the responsibility. That night, she promised a cinema visit the next day. But unexpectedly, Christine is called in to work on Saturday. She reluctantly agrees, leaving Walter disappointed. She reassures him of her early return. Yet, after her shift, her boss, Ben Harrison, holds her back to commend her work, causing her to miss her streetcar. By the time she reaches home, Walter is missing. Distraught, she searches the neighborhood, but no one has seen him. When she contacts the police, they insist on waiting 24 hours before starting a search. Feeling helpless, she spends the night worrying. The next day, with police still unhelpful, Pastor Gustav Briegleb urges his congregation to aid in Walter's search, distrusting the local corrupt police force. As days turn into weeks, Christine's colleagues console her while she explores every avenue for missing person services. After 4 long months, in Illinois, a diner worker reports a man leaving behind a child, claiming to return soon but doesn't. The police inform Christine that they've found Walter. Overwhelmed, she rushes to the train station, greeted by a swarm of journalists. However, when she finally sees the boy, she immediately knows it isn't Walter. Despite her protests, Captain Jones insists she's merely stressed and convinces her to take the boy home, with the child affirming, "That's my mommy." Confused and cornered, Christine reluctantly brings the child home, even though she's sure he's not Walter. Christine's certainty solidified when she noted the boy was circumcised and was of shorter stature than Walter. She questioned the boy's identity, but he remained silent. The following day, she relayed her concerns to Captain Jones. However, he dismissed her worries, suggesting maybe she remembered Walter's height wrong. Undeterred, Christine stood firm that the boy wasn't her son. Jones accused her of neglecting her maternal role. A doctor was then sent to her house and attributed the boy's shorter height to stress. Confounded, Christine confronted Captain Jones, frustrated with the ongoing drama and lack of effort in finding Walter. The boy addressing her as "mother" sent her over the edge, resulting in a shattered plate. She later apologized, recognizing the boy's innocence in this confusing situation. One morning, Pastor Gustav Briegleb called Christine, advising her to read the daily newspaper. The article painted her as neglectful towards her returned son. Briegleb clarified that the police were trying to hide their mistake. Knowing the LAPD's dubious track record, he assured Christine he'd support her. A pediatric dentist examined the boy and declared the differences in dental structures. Further backing Christine's claim, Mrs. Fox, a teacher, confirmed the boy wasn't Walter and was willing to provide written proof. Briegleb reminded Christine about a radio appearance. On the airwaves, she addressed the halted search for her son due to police mishandling. Hearing this, Jones was livid, accusing her of tarnishing their reputation. He then ordered her to be admitted to a mental facility. En route, Christine believed it was the police's retaliation, but the hospital staff dismissed her as delusional. They subjected her to a rough examination. Alone and isolated, Christine's pleas to speak to the higher-ups were ignored, emphasizing the lack of rights for the patients. Christine's roommate constantly repeated the same words, which was driving Christine to the edge. At the same time, Detective Lester Ibarra sought directions to Northgate's ranch from a passerby. Unbeknownst to him, the man in his car's backseat had a hidden gun and appeared jittery. Arriving at the ranch in search of a young boy, Lester spotted him. The boy, seeing Lester, dashed inside and locked up. Lester had an arrest warrant for Samford Clark, giving him the right to forcibly enter. Inside, the boy lunged at Lester, but was quickly detained. The teenager was in the US illegally and had to be sent back to Canada. Pastor Briegleb was uneasy when Christine missed the radio program, sensing something was wrong. Meanwhile, Gordon, the road guy, was at the train station buying a ticket. At the hospital during breakfast, Christine refused to eat. Another patient, Carol, urged her to act normal, revealing many were in the hospital because the police deemed them troublesome. To the outside world, they were just mad. Sanford, at the police station, was lost in troubling thoughts. He sought to speak to the officer who brought him in. Christine had a meeting with Dr. Jonathan Steele. She calmly stated that the police gave her the wrong child, but they wouldn't admit it. Dr. Steele questioned her grip on reality, suggesting she might be blending fantasy and real life. Lester listened to Sanford's chilling story about his cousin, Gordon Northgate, who owned the ranch. He allowed Sanford to stay in exchange for help. But the aid was dark. Gordon forced Sanford to assist in kidnapping and harming children. Lester was stunned by the revelation, especially when Sanford disclosed around 20 kids were victims. Sanford shared how they'd deceive kids into coming with them. At the ranch, victims were locked in a chicken coop, and their fate was bleak. Tearfully, Sanford expressed remorse. Lester showed him pictures of missing boys. Sanford identified a few, including Walt Collins. After hearing from Lester, Captain Jones believed Sanford made up the story. As protesters, led by Pastor Briegleb, gathered outside, Jones cautioned Lester to stay quiet and bring Sanford in. Briegleb demanded to know Christine's whereabouts and was shocked to learn she was in a mental facility. The pastor quickly realized the situation. Christine wouldn't take her meds, asserting she was fine. The head doctor wanted her to sign a paper acknowledging that the police had found her real son. Her refusal meant she was forcibly given the medicine. When Carol defended Christine and struck Jonathan, they subjected Carol to electric shocks. Later, Christine witnessed a dazed Carol being moved. Meanwhile, Christine visited Carol, who urged her to fight for her freedom and son. Lester, with his team, headed back to the ranch. Guided by Sam, they started unearthing the grim proof buried there. Seeing the evidence, the officers were taken aback. Lester called for more police support. As Sam wept, Lester comforted him. 6 days in, Christine still resisted her meds. The doctors pondered using electric shocks on her. Just then, Pastor Briegleb showed up, news article in hand, and demanded Christine's release. The headline detailed the horrid discoveries at the ranch. Christine, once outside, was hit with the possibility that Walter might be deceased and was overcome with grief. The blame fell on Jones. Public anger surged, not only for the missing Walter but also for wrongfully admitting his mother to an asylum. Jones had to own up. Lester interrogated the child impersonating Walter. The kid admitted his motive was simply to see Los Angeles. With Pastor Briegleb's backing, Christine felt empowered, having lost all else. Gordon made a brief stop at his sister's home. Her suspicion prompted a police call during his restroom break. Soon, Gordon was in police custody. Briegleb introduced Christine to Mr. Hahn, a lawyer. Given the police's attempt to pin the fault on the boy and Christine's supposed erratic behavior, she needed to take legal action. Hahn would be her courtroom representative. The trio, Briegleb, Hahn, and Christine, visited the asylum with a mandate: release all the women detained on police orders. Outside, Christine and Carol exchanged heartfelt smiles. After his arrest, Gordon smugly told the press he wasn't worried since the police were ineffective anyway. Top officials indicated to James Davis that there were calls for significant police resignations. To Christine's amazement, the community rallied for her, including her employer, Ben, demanding justice. The courtroom buzzed with people. With the police absent, the judge postponed the hearing. Hahn swiftly escorted Christine to a less crowded room to minimize disruptions. Upon entering, Gordon noticed Christine, having seen her photo in the papers, and labeled her courageous. Despite the evidence, Gordon denied any wrongdoing. Captain Jones took the stand, suggesting Christine's behavior was erratic, explaining why the police doubted her claims about her son. Everyone present found Jones' defense laughable. The child claiming to be Walter was finally identified as Arthur Hutchins from Iowa. Arthur's real mother arrived to bring him back. The trial continued for days, with each witness sharing their account. Bregleb kept visiting Christine, who clung to hope regarding Walter's fate. After deliberations, Captain Jones was dismissed from his duties, reforms for admitting individuals to asylums were instituted, and a unanimous jury found Gordon guilty. When asked for final words, Gordon expressed admiration only for Christine. Consequently, he was sentenced to death, with execution set 2 years later. As days went by, Christine resumed work and made regular inquiries to missing persons units. Hahn informed her that Gordon wished to meet before his execution, perhaps to reveal the truth. Eager for answers, she agreed. Despite Hahn's efforts to set up the meeting, Gordon, taken aback by Christine's appearance, chose to remain silent, leaving her with unresolved emotions. On the day of execution, a fearful Gordon pleaded for prayers for his soul. Following his death, Christine tried to rebuild her life with support from co-workers and Ben, her close friend. A phone call changed things. Another mother reported a found child fitting a particular description. At the police station, Christine overheard a boy, David, recount his story of being imprisoned with other kids, including Walter. They had escaped, but David wasn't sure if Walter had made it, fearing Gordon all along. A compassionate woman had taken in David, leading to his eventual reunion with his parents. Lester was taken aback that Christine remained unwavering in her mission, especially when it seemed she had nearly given up hope.